Okay. So again, happy to share these stories. A lot of them have happy endings. I'll share some ones in the future that maybe don't have some happy endings. But you know, when you go into these things, you don't always know these things are going to work. But in that case, it did. Okay, so today's topic is acquiring customers online. And I've also got with me a couple of folks that I'm going to probably involve in the conversation. Tafer Hamed, who is the director of marketing of The Lonely Entrepreneur, and Eric Coral, who's also a member of our strategic team as well, who chimed in before. So I want to talk a little bit about the strategy and the tactics of acquiring people online. I know a lot of people in early stage businesses, like we all are, think something like the following. If I could only do social media well, if I only knew how to do Google AdWords, if I only knew how to do social media advertising, I could really break through. Okay. And we are going to talk a little bit, and I'm going to ask Tafer to talk a little bit about, you know, some of the ways to go about thinking about that and stuff like that. And there's a methodology called SIVA that I'd like her to share a little bit about today, which is important. But here's what I would tell you. Remember, if what I said was the case, wouldn't everybody just do it, right? Doesn't everybody today go out and do Google AdWords and do Facebook advertising, right? And when you go and you do that, right? If you brought in, you know, a marketing consulting firm, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that too, and you said, you know, how are we going to do? And let's say it's Facebook ads. They would say, you know, if we get 1.5% response, you're killing it. Think about that, 1.5% response. So a lot of times we think if we could just use, and this is my way of thinking, the tactics, right? If we just use Facebook ads and Google AdWords, if we just knew how to do the tactics, if we just had a resource to do the tactics, then our business would grow. And what I'm here to tell you is that it's the strategy and the messaging that wins, right? If you don't have a strategy and you don't have an approach, right, that makes it stand out, then acquiring customers online, you're doing what everybody else is doing, right? So you have to really think about what is that strategy and what are those strategic themes that really cut through, okay? So let's take Lonely Entrepreneur, okay? If you got an ad in your email box, which who knows, maybe some of you did, and it's the reason you're here, and we said, we've got a bunch of resources to help you be a better entrepreneur, right? We all need resources to be a better entrepreneur, right? You would probably go, okay. But if we said, hey, The Lonely Entrepreneur, you know, we know what it's like to sit in your shoes, and here's some crazy stories about the entrepreneur. And so the information we're going to tell you about being a better entrepreneur is from somebody that's really felt the passion and the pressure and the pain, right? So at Lonely Entrepreneur, you guys know we fight for your soul because it's like us. But the point is that those are two of the same, we're trying to get to the same thing, which is to help entrepreneurs, right? Like yourselves. But the strategy and the strategic themes that you go out and do them with really, really matter. Okay, think about my Citibank example. They already knew they were getting value. Okay, but it wasn't until we really compelled them, in that case with risk. Okay, so a lot of times when you go out with these strategic themes, you're not just saying, hey, we got this product or service, right? Because remember, we're all in this cluttered world of social media advertising. I mean, think about yourselves. Think about selling to yourselves. When something comes across your email or something comes across your digital, right? Don't you just immediately ignore everything unless something really, really piques your interest, right? And those things that pique your interest are not going to just be features and benefits, okay? They're going to be something that's going to make you have to go, oh, ooh. And once they do, then you'll pay attention to all that, okay? So the first thing that I want to tell you is that when you think about acquiring customers online, the most heavy duty piece of work is really making sure that these strategic themes are compelling for your particular type of business. Okay. Let me stop there before we get into some of the tactile stuff. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Somebody just asked a question to me that's a really good one. What do you mean by strategy? So great question. It's really important for all of us in our evolution as entrepreneurs to understand, and probably even more importantly, appreciate the difference between a strategy and the tactics, right? The tactics like Facebook ads and Google search and, website SEO, those are the how, right? Those are the things that you do, email marketing, those are the things that you do to implement a strategy, which I'll talk about in a minute, right? So if somebody went to somebody and said, okay, what's your strategy for winning? If you're hiring a marketing firm, and one of the things we're going to be doing in the future that we'll share is to actually help people vet their marketing firms. If you go to a marketing firm and you said, okay, marketing firm, I'm going to spend a bunch of money with you, or I'm going to spend my last dollar with you, right? What's your strategy, right? And they came back and said, we're going to do Facebook ads, we're going to do Google ads, we're going to do email marketing. Those aren't strategies. Those are tactics. Those are the how, okay? So what a strategy is, okay, is something that's going to stand out amongst what's going on out there that you put into those tactics, okay? For a lonely entrepreneur, for example, the strategy is making sure that you guys understand intimately that we are you, right? That we represent your soul because it's us, right? The strategies that people put into these tactics for your particular type of business are the things that have to be compelling, right? So I'll give you an example. We were working with a company that was doing DNA testing for pregnant moms, right? So the technology has evolved so much now that you can do a bunch of testing that can not only detect, serious issues, but helps moms, eat better and preserve the health of their child, all during the pregnancy. And this company was really struggling because they were like, we're going out and their strategy was to say, we're really going to show them how easy we make it for them. We're going to do a test and you get a follow-up call and a follow-up visit. And they were really struggling with it. And we were like, listen, getting a follow-up call and a follow-up test, I mean, that's useful and valuable, but that's not something that really kind of jumps out. And then we said, isn't this really kind of an emotional pitch? Like, is there anything you wouldn't do for your unborn baby? Right? And it was all about this whole idea now that in this day and age, you have things that you couldn't have done before, right? So the strategy was to appeal to the emotion of the mother that, and we weren't going this far to say, is there anything you wouldn't do for your unborn child? Right? And the results started to change. Remember, we're using the same tactics. We're still sticking that in Facebook ads and Google search and email marketing. Okay? So the strategy is the messaging and the idea that really is compelling, even if you told it to somebody you walked down the street and told, right? And one of the things when you acquire customers in any venue, but especially online, is when you go and talk to marketing firms, okay, you should say to them, what is your strategy? And see what they say, okay? It shouldn't just be, we're going to do Google ads and Facebook ads and whatever, right? Because those aren't strategies. Because think of it this way, everybody does that. If you were dropped here from another planet and you said, how are you going to acquire customers? They'd be like, we'll do all those things that I just mentioned, okay? Strategy matters. Strategy is what wins. And as the world gets more and more cluttered, okay, strategy becomes even more important, okay? Let me stop there for a second before we get into some of the nuts and bolts, see if anybody has any questions. Does anybody want to mention about, their particular business or their particular company, something they've been struggling with that we could use against the backdrop of what I just talked about?
Don't be shy. This is the time to ask your questions.
Okay.
Hello, I'm
Hey,
Carrie.
Michael.
Did I
Sorry, go
interrupt
ahead.
someone?
Yes, go ahead.
No.
Hi, I'm Perry. My company is Nectary Botanics, and Nectary is a natural skincare line. And the thing about Nectary is that, I'm 52 years old. So when I think of my target customer, I think of someone like me who doesn't want to be younger, but just wants to look good. So I'm having trouble trying to think of a strategy because I don't want to say anti-aging, but at the same time, people don't want to look their age. So how do you craft that strategy while still acknowledging that, you're great where you are, but
Yep.
I understand that you would like to look better.
Yeah. The first thing I would tell you is we don't like when people come on here and lie to us because there's no way you're 52 years old. So
I use my own products.
lying is not allowed in the learning field. So here's what I would say. So if you take a step back and you think about your particular area, everybody knows there's lots of clutter in the skincare and any. So you're against the context of all of this other stuff, right?
Right.
And frankly, anybody here in any industry is all against the clutter of stuff. So that's the reality for all of us. I don't think it's so much when you think about saying anti-aging, because there's plenty of people that say anti-aging. In fact, I would say, if you would say anti-aging, you're just saying what everybody else is saying.
Right.
So
And
go ahead.
And it's against the backdrop right now, is that I don't necessarily, words have power. So I want to be pro-aging, but at the same time, I can't not say anti-aging because that's what people are searching for. It's like people want to look younger sometimes, but don't want to say it, but we look for it.
Yeah. But I think that even if you did say anti-aging, you're what everybody else is saying. Here's the test I always use. If you're dropped here from another planet and you created your product, what would your website say? It would say we have this great anti-aging stuff, right?
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Pantene, the shampoo line, came out and won, I don't know, the advertising campaign of the year. And they did a partnership with, I forget, I think it was Peloton. It was one of the gyms.
Mhm.
And it was about women's empowerment. Now, what does shampoo? Okay. But the point was, the strategy was to say, we are going to empower women and they're on the bike and they're doing their thing and associate it with Pantene.
Mhm.
Right? Think about Nike, just do it. Right? It's a little closer, right? Because at least it's athletics. But the point is that when you brainstorm about the role that your products play in, yes, anti-aging, the anti-aging is important to it, right? But if you said, for example, I'll make it up. If you said that single moms, right, don't take care of themselves, sacrifice for everybody else,
Mhm.
right? Put everybody in front of themselves, but it's time to put yourself first. Now, that might not be the most groundbreaking thing at all, but you're having a different strategic conversation than just, right, here's how much shea butter is in our product.
Right.
So that's what we mean, guys, by strategy, right? Is you have to think about things that stand out. That's the criteria. Does it stand out? Right?
Mhm.
Think about it. It's shampoo and riding a bike. They don't have anything to do with each other.
Right.
And they won the campaign of the year. Okay. So, and we're happy to talk to you more about this, but you have to start to say to yourself, are there emotional things that anti-aging and your products are doing for them? Right? Are there things that are compelling a certain demographic that makes them go, I want to go there?
Mhm.
Right? And it can't just be, and we'd be happy to talk to you more about it. It can't just be the kind of right next to what you're already doing. Okay. It's almost like, I don't know about you guys, but I hate cliche stuff like think about outside the box. No, it's not even a box. Like
Right.
everybody thinks of outside the box, so nobody thinks outside the box, right?
Right.
You need to be able to really kind of break the mold and go to different places to be able to implement some of these strategies. Okay, so we'll all get some time and brainstorm on it. So where are you from, by the way?
I'm in Wisconsin,
Oh, cool.
West Bend, Wisconsin.
Awesome. Great to have you. Okay, I'm going to ask Fair to talk a little bit about this new concept. It's a relatively new concept that is really, really important for acquiring customers online. You can probably tell everybody that a lot of times the nuts and bolts of Facebook marketing and all that stuff's important, and we're happy to help talk more about that stuff, but we really think this stuff is super important. So historically, there's something that's very, very well known, which I'll have Tefera explain, called the 4 Ps. That was traditionally used by marketers to make their products and services stand out. And now that has transferred or kind of transformed into a new methodology. So first of all, Tefera, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Good.
Coming to us from snowy Chicago.
Very cold.
Very cold. So Tefera, can you do me a favor and just kind of go through the 4 Ps and go through SIVA and tell us a little bit about that evolution?
Sure. So the 4 Ps were developed in the 60s, and the world is completely different in 2021 based on how we shop. And so marketers continue to use the 4 Ps, and the 4 Ps are product. So, your anti-aging cream, price, how much is that cream going to cost? Promotion, where are you going to advertise? And place, where are you going to actually sell this product? So Target, Walgreens. And so SIVA, which is SIVA, take note please of that, it has evolved to reflect the world that we currently live in. And so where we once spoke about product, S stands for solution. So now the product becomes, as opposed to anti-aging, what is the solution? So you feel better, you look better, and thinking about the pain points associated with anti-aging. The price is now information. So content, customer number 1 is king, but really content is second place. So making sure that you provide relevant information and maintain educational dialogue within the marketplace that you're currently in. And the V, it stands for value. So as opposed to, just speaking about how great your product is, what is the value and the benefits that you're articulating, that is related to the price, and rather than focusing on cost plus or competitor pricing. And then access, so allowing customers to purchase when, where, and how they want, instead of just a static distribution. So are you available online? Is your website accessible? Are you available in Facebook? We have a marketplace on Facebook now. Right now, I think, I've been in marketing for about 16 years, and I've worked from customers that have no budget to really, really big budgets. And I think a place where everyone can really start is social, and really having a great website, and really just telling the story of that particular consumer that you want to invite in, and putting content out there consistently. Even if it's just a line, like let's just say LinkedIn, it's a voyeuristic world on LinkedIn, if you can believe it. It's, I believe, over 26 million people currently subscribed and use the platform, but only 1% currently post. So that means the inventory for content is huge, and you don't necessarily have to put tons of money behind it, because the algorithms right now are allowing you to appear, along thousands of people's timelines. So those are some of the really basic principles that you can now apply. And if you Google, again, SIVA, SIVA, you're able to speak not necessarily completely differently than what you're doing, but it's a pivot. So if you remember in basketball, you're not necessarily dribbling down the court, you're just moving slightly to get into a better position for that shot. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you very much, Tefera. I want to take off on 2 pieces of that because they're super, super important, the S and the I, okay? So when you think about the solution part versus the old school P of product, right? People would say, let's use anti-aging. It's got this much shea butter. It's made with this special formula from Africa, you know, blah, 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 right? Like, you know, things that were about the product as opposed to, right, the solution. It was exactly like my example with the pregnancy testing, right? The solution was doing anything you could for your unborn baby, right? It wasn't about, I'm going to schedule this on Tuesday and you're going to get this and that and the other thing. But I think the second one, you know, information versus price is super, super important. So think about the context of everyone. Everybody is coming to everyone saying, I'll give you something cheaper. I'll give it to you for this price. You can have all these things for this price. We get hit with that stuff all day long, right? When you are providing information about the solution that they're trying to get, right? And that information, I know you're using the words content. And remember, sometimes that can be confusing to people that just like kind of, this is about a consistent flow of information that makes your customer believe that you are the solution, right? So when you're constantly telling people, these are the things that you should be thinking about, right? In the context of the solution you're trying to get, you're not trying to sell them something, you're educating them. When you do offer me something, I want to buy it. Okay. And that relationship, right? We ultimately want to boil into transactions, right? I do a Facebook ad and somebody buys it, but it cannot be transactional. It has to demonstrate, right, that you are bringing information that is saying to them, these people are really helping. I'll give you an example from my old healthcare business. Health plans like the Aetnas and the Cignas were looking at incentives. And we went to them and we said, and certainly we didn't to FAIR at the time know we were doing SIVA, right? But we said to ourselves, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Health Plan, we think these are the 30 things you should be looking for when you're going to get a healthcare technology solution. And we used to say this, whether you buy them from us or build it yourself, these are the 30 things that you should do. We even went to the point of providing them with a standard RFP, for those of you who know, request for proposal, which these are the documents they would use when they would go buy services. They'd say to vendors, here's the 100 things I want, and you'd fill them out and apply. We said, here's actually a sample RFP. If you're going to go to the market and look for this product, whether or not you buy it from us. Okay. But what that did was it established us as we are setting this standard for what it is. Okay. Remember, this goes a lot from those of you who've been in other calls about this whole idea around finding a playground where nobody else is playing, right? So your ability to communicate content, remember, content for early stage entrepreneurs like all of us is hard, right? Because you don't have the resource, you don't have the time. It feels like you're doing it over and over and over again. But if what you're doing is you're meeting that eye, right? You're trying to meet that information that was consistently building upon, right, the notion in the customer's head that these people are going to help me solve my problem. That is what ultimately helps people acquire customers online. Once you have that, right, you can do digital marketing ads, you can hire a marketing firm to execute. Just so you know, there's a million people that can do Facebook ads for you. You can do some of it yourself. Okay. LinkedIn and others have a growing set of tools. And of course you can go to third-party agencies that can help you guys with this stuff as well. Okay. So think about how you're strategically different and think about how this consistent flow of information is making sure that buyer is going, wow, these guys are really lending insight to me about how to solve my problem. And therefore I want to buy things from them. Because remember, and we all know this, think about how most of us feel about the way people are putting things in front of us today, right? 99% of the time, I feel like people are just trying to game us, right? So when somebody does come to the table, genuinely, consistently, right, to add value, to trying to help us solve our problem, they stand out. Okay. Let me stop there for a second. Hopefully this makes sense for people as they start to think about how to relate it to their business. Cool. Okay. Let's get a little bit tactical for a second. I know many are early stage companies and you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I don't have budgets, how do I go about acquiring customers online? Let's go through a couple of things that I've been kind of rattling off relatively quickly, right? Think about the kind of universe of acquisition techniques, right? Let's go through them. So first is Google, right? And I'm going to turn to Eric on our team. Eric, can you give a little bit of sense of kind of Google search, Google AdWords for folks?
Eric, you're on mute.
Mute button. So absolutely, with everything that to add to everything Tafera and Michael have mentioned, those are really the cornerstones where you have to have those elements in place to have successful campaigns, because they provide social proof, they provide a compelling reason to buy your products. With the tactical aspect of Google AdWords, what is fantastic about Google Ads, Facebook Ads, is that they have now provided a platform where your campaigns can be trackable, repeatable, and scalable. And so unlike even 20 years ago or 10 years ago, they've improved so much where every single dollar you spend, you can track to what type of revenue it's generating as a return. So if you are, to give the example on Nectary, for example, if you were to test out a campaign on people searching for anti-aging and you decided you wanted to test that campaign out, you could roll out a small campaign for $100 and be able to see exactly what kind of revenue you generated off of that spend. So it's a very powerful tool in both the testing and execution of your campaigns, because you can start to, as you get additional information, be able to predict how much revenue you will generate based on what your marketing budget is. That gives you the ability to scale, create a scalable model for your business. So there is a lot of testing in the beginning stages, but it's powerful for growth. And so just to touch on a few different examples, worked with different consumer product companies that have been able to scale quickly, small retail stores that have been able to scale quickly, online services, service providers have all used this through the TLE community, just in terms of seeing them prosper with it. It's really a powerful element there. And so
when you think about, you think about the whole concept of Google AdWords, right? That people are on there, and Google search, right? So people are on there searching for things just like we do all day long, right? And
yes,
search for things, we can come up with tactical marketing campaigns that target the people that are on there searching, and have our ads, there's many different types of ads, come up those things. Okay.
Exactly. And with that point, that's a great point, Michael. The big benefit of Google Ads and Bing Ads as well, or Microsoft advertising, they call it now, but you are getting by intent customers. And so when you look at social is very important for social proof, and you can create successful campaigns there. That's more someone matches your target profile of a customer who would be great for you. With the search type of advertising, people are actively searching. You can catch them in the funnel where they're already going to purchase something. It's just whether or not it's going to be your service, your product. So you are in front of them at the point where they're actively looking to search to solve their problem.
Yeah.
And that's what's so compelling about it.
That's a great point.
Under the register.
Yeah, that's a great point, Eric, because I think a lot of times, especially, the advice early stage companies will get is do your social, right? There are different purposes of acquiring customers online, right? When you're doing social, think about when we interact with social, we are not in buying mode, right? We're in learning mode, interesting mode, pay attention mode, but we're not in buying mode. And think about what Eric just said. When people are searching for something, when we are searching for something, don't get me wrong, we're not always looking to buy something, but we have that, as Eric said, purchase intent, right? So when you think about where you spend your time and where you spend your money, as Eric said, the social stuff a lot of times is for social proof, for presence, for branding. But a lot of the other things like Google AdWords or Google search is when people are actively searching for something. Okay. Now, when you take the social stuff and you start to add social advertising, right? The platforms now, Facebook and others, but especially Facebook, really give you the ability to target, right? They really give you the ability to pick all kinds of different factors for the audience that you're going after. Income levels, geography, interests, and those will continue to get more and more robust, right? So what you're really trying to do is you're really trying to hone in on how do I get that target customer? How do I get to that ideal customer for me, right? And whether it's through Google search, of people searching for things, or for these advertising vehicles, really understanding who that target customer is, especially with all the tools that are at our disposal, is super, super important. If your target customer is a woman age 40, right, Perry, that is thinking about these issues, but you said, oh, well, I think I want them to have a certain level of income, right? Like things like Facebook and some of the others allow you to really hone in on those audiences. As Eric said, get immediate feedback. You put something out there and you don't have to spend a ton of money. You can test these things with $10 or $20, right? And you put it out there and it goes to a certain number of people and you see exactly how they respond. Tell the entrepreneurs that a lot of people tell you just go do the thing. And if you don't do some of these things about thinking about who your target customer is and trying to have a strategy that really stands out. But these are the things that really make a difference. I know when going after, I want to talk a little bit about digital marketing firms. By the way, is there anybody on the call today who is a digital marketing firm? Can anybody raise their hand? Okay, if you are, just ping us. I'd be curious to get stand out. And when you think about the tools that we're talking about, there's plenty of agencies that can help you with this. What I would really encourage everybody to do when you are interacting with these agencies, okay, is a couple of different things. Number one, ask them to come to you and say, what's your strategy? Simple. This much in Google and this much in, but why are we going to win at Google whenever? Secondly is I would ask them, give us your top 5 results from any company you've worked with. Okay, I want you to just show us your top 5 results. Okay, what you want to see is what Eric said, right? You want to see examples, because remember, you're giving them the opportunity to present whatever they want to see. right? 5 examples where somebody gave them some money and said, I spent this money and it turned into this amount of revenue. Okay. I did one the other day with a consulting client of ours. And we gave them the opportunity to present. It's a pretty decent size agency, whatever they wanted. The first result was a little like revenue. It was like leads. And results 2, 3, 4, 5 were all about, we got more social following. And we're like, hold on a sec. It was a big ad spend for this particular, we're like, we're going to give you $1 of money. You're supposed to tell us how to turn that bucket of money into the revenue we want. And you're presenting us, right, results that the best results you've gotten for all of your clients are not talking about revenue. Okay, that tells you something. Okay. Third is you should tell them that their compensation is going to be tied to results. Okay, so someone says, conversations, right? Somebody comes to you and says, we're gonna charge you $6,000 a month, and for that $6,000 a month, we're gonna do Facebook ads, we're gonna do this and this and this and this. And if they say during the conversation, you know, we want to be partners and we absolutely want to align our compensation to results, you're like, great, awesome. Here's the way this is going to work. The way this is going to work is we're going to pay you $3,000 a month, and the other 50% of your compensation will be tied to this goal, right? And oh, by the way, if you exceed that goal, you're going to make more than $6,000 a month. Okay. Vendors that are really good, and they're hard to find, say, I love it because that way I can achieve goals and make more, right? If they push back on you and say, well, there's this and this and this and this, you probably have the wrong vendor. Okay. And then finally, we all know that when we ask for references from digital marketing firms, and I don't mean to pick on digital marketing firms, but really any firms, believe it or not, we all get references to people that say wonderful things, right? No surprise. Ask them for 2 references from people that left them. 2 customers that no longer work with them. Okay. So now there's lots of reasons why people don't work with firms longer term. In fact, in a lot of cases, you know, companies take marketing in-house, right? So, but what that will tell you, first of all, if they resist, that tells you something. But if they're like, sure, talk to X and Y, what they will tell you is that they believe in their services, they believe they can add value, and when combined with the other questions that you ask them, you'll really be able to peel back the onion and ultimately get to somebody that is accountable for being able to help you acquire customers online. Okay, the things that we're talking about here are complicated. They involve strategy, they involve tactics. They involve SIVA, they involve all the things that you know, Google and social and other platforms that are emerging now. Okay, even affiliate programs, right? All these things that are, and so going out and finding resources is probably something you're going to have to do at some point. But, and it's a big but, there are a lot of firms out there that will do things, but haven't shown the capability to be able to actually deliver results. And it's a tough thing, right? Because I've said a couple of times, this is hard. Like, it's not easy to deliver results. So that being said, people should be just as aligned to your success as you are. And if you're going to spend your dollars, you should be structuring your compensation with those agencies or resources. So if they really believe that in their services, then when you win, they win, and when they win, you win. Okay. Victoria, any questions or comments from everybody that we should address?
No, I think the questions that I had been answered as we were discussing some of the stuff. So, I'm curious to hear from people if anybody, you know, had any stories around the topic that we're discussing, or just, you know, tidbits of insights as well.
Yeah, and I just got a question from somebody. It's a really good question. How does an individual like us build a community from scratch around their brand when you're starting from scratch? Great question. Okay. If you really think about it, right, this whole idea of things going viral is starting to become a thing of the past, right? Things go viral for like 5 seconds in the world. Like there isn't, like a couple of years ago, things go viral and it put people on the planet. And yeah, that happens every once in a while, but think about it. Something goes viral and you forget about it in 2 days, right? And it's just the world that we live in. It really goes down to that, again, that I and Siva we were talking about, which is putting out there genuine and consistent content that adds value to the problem you're helping people solve, right? You have to, there's no magic pill to it, okay? You have to consistently put out great content that makes them go, I want to be a part of this. And if you do that, and if you do that consistently, your community will grow. Obviously, you're combining it with the tactics that exist, or the tactics that we've been talking about a little bit here. But there is no magic pill to that, and anybody who tells you there's a magic pill to that is just kind of kidding themselves. The other thing that I would say is, I believe that too many times we think of the digital advertising opportunities that we have, like the techniques that we've been talking about here, as the only vehicle. And when everybody's using those vehicles, granted, they're using them to scale, as Eric said, and they're using them to target, and they can be very valuable vehicles. Sometimes when you're doing something like building a community, is use my example of the pregnancy testing, right? Yes, you could digitally advertise to moms, right? But what if you found a LinkedIn group, right? Or what if you found a retailer, right, that had lots and lots and lots of consumers that would be valuable in something like that? I'll give you an example. We do some work with a company I've mentioned before. It's a pet telehealth company, right? So you pay a subscription and you have the opportunity to get this all your questions answered about your pet that you wouldn't go to the vet for. It's a really cool service called Whisker Docs. And Whisker Docs does digital marketing, right? But we also then said to ourselves, well, wait a minute, pets is something that's really important and emotional to almost everybody. There's brands out there that would be channels of distribution for acquiring customers. So we went to credit card companies and said, hey, credit card companies, you're trying to get a consumer to believe that you understand them and are showing things that are important to them and compelling to them. Wouldn't it be great if you offered people this free pet telehealth service for every new credit card? Okay, so that there are pockets of consumers that don't just come from digital advertising. Okay, now digital advertising, as Eric said before, is about scale, right? If you get the formula down where your strategy is coming through, where you can pump it into a Facebook ad, you can ramp it up, right? You can ramp up those dollars so that you said, I've got it now. I've got the message, and I was spending 10 before, and now I'm going to spend 1,000 because it's producing a return that goes over and above that. Okay, but when everybody's doing that and everybody's trying to optimize that, that can also be supplemented by finding big pockets of your people. Okay, and the example of a credit card company giving away a pet service is hardly a natural, right? But all of a sudden it becomes very differentiated for that credit card company. So now this person, just like you can in Facebook, this person now has access to millions and millions of credit card holders, right? Because this in their case strategy, right, was compelling to try to get to those audiences. Okay. When it comes to, I don't want to gloss over the tactical stuff, and maybe, to fair, we can another time do a session on just some more of the tactical things in Eric and some of our other folks. But what I would say to you is that think about the strategic stuff first. I think one of the things that you can find is that, especially with Facebook, more and more with LinkedIn and other platforms as well, these are tools you can use yourself. Right? These are tools that you can go and create campaigns yourself. You can go get consultants. We can help you with some of this stuff. But when you're doing it on a sophisticated level, obviously there's agencies out there that can help you. I would just caution you to make sure that before you spend your hard-earned dollars with agencies, you really vet them. We're going to be helping people vet them more and more here. So please feel free to reach out to us if we can help in any way around that. Okay. If anybody has questions, please chime in. Tafer, when you joined us, I think I asked you the question, like, what wins? Right? You have all this clutter.
Yeah.
What wins in the world? So can you just kind of share with the group just your perspective, given all that you've seen, about what you think kind of wins in the marketing world these days?
I don't think anyone can beat in a world of clutter. I don't think anyone can beat your product or you being you. And what does that mean? Like, every brand has its own DNA of how you arrived to this idea, your why behind starting a business. That is what's going to set you apart in the marketplace, is really just you being authentic and showing up, and that really showing up in your brand day in and day out. And just really understanding, some of your best marketers out there are also psychologists, if you can believe it or not. So I've was like a couple credit hours short of psychology, but just understanding the psychology of your consumer, of like, what are they thinking about? What makes them emotionally vulnerable? What makes them happy, sad? In the world of COVID, the emotions are high and very low, all in one day. So making that connection and being authentic, I think, is the bread and butter to your brand. And I think, if you, like Michael talked about Pantene, what does this have to do with that? If you see like Procter and Gamble around the Olympics, I don't think anyone has like a dry eye with when you see like these ads that they've created around that emotional connection of people who are just literally sitting on their couches, right, connecting to these amazing athletes. So just really look at some of the ads that really make you think and take action, and try to do that on your level.
Yep. Yeah, it's such a great point, right? You never hear about shampoo, right? When Procter and Gamble's doing an ad, you never see the shampoo.
Right.
Or maybe you see it at the end, right? And
Yeah.
so when you think about getting into acquiring customers online, or really customers anyway, a lot of what Tafer just kind of laid out is hugely important. You have to understand what's going to make them tick, right? You have to understand, what does your customer think about every day, right? Not what is your product, right? They're not sitting around saying, how do I have this, right? They have problems, they have needs, they have wants. And your messaging and the way that you acquire them has to be speaking to those needs and those wants. Okay. And if you're able to tap into those needs and wants, you'll have the opportunity to, in a genuine way, as Tafer said, and in a consistent way, right? That's when you'll have the opportunity to break through. I know many times there's frustrations from early stage companies, because you see advertisement all the time and you're like, is that working? Is that really working? It's becoming, and this is a good thing, it's becoming harder and harder to BS anybody, right? Because somebody says, I'm a entrepreneur coach and I'm going to change your sales by 300% if you just show up on Tuesday, right? And that is happening all over the place, that we all as consumers, we tune all of that out. So what rises to the top is being genuine. Okay. And not just genuine about you, because as Tafer said, your genuine story is important, but a lot of times people don't care about our stories, right? But being genuine about solving their problems, or meeting those needs and meeting those wants. Okay. So I know you think that there's those quick hits that just hit and hit and hit. Trust me, right? if they're not working on you, they're not working on other people. And the things that rise to the top are the things that are genuinely adding value in a consistent way, right? That is able to say to an individual, wow, this company is really helping me get the solution I need for the want or the need that I have. Okay. I hope this was helpful for everyone. Please, as you're going through the experience of trying to figure out your digital marketing strategy, share in the community, right? There's some great dialogues going in there. We want to try to help when it comes to vetting your vendors, but I hope that at least a couple of those techniques about what you ask them will tell you a heck of a lot about, you know, where they kind of fit and if they're the right fit for your hard-earned dollars. Okay.
And if anyone needs, just to add to that, Michael, if anyone needs a link to the community and you don't have it or you lost it, please email info@lonelyentrepreneur.com and we'll make sure you have access to the platform.
Terrific. Victoria, any parting?
Hey, Michael.
Sorry, guys. No, I think we are good. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Have a terrific weekend, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Michael, got a question for you.
What's up, man?
How you doing today? Hey,
Doing
did
good. How about
anybody
you?
raise their hand about the marketing company?
I don't think so.
Okay. I was curious.
Cool.
Great
Thank you,
job,
everybody,
man.
so much for, we'll be in touch.
All
Stay
right, have a
close.
good one.
Hey, take
Thank
care.
you.